Good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad you joined us for our Q&A today. I'm Sharon Spurlock, the Senior Director of Family Support, and my colleague Hannah is going to join me today to talk about New Year, new legislative session. And boy, is it going to be an important one. So I'm glad you came. I hope you'll share this with a lot of folks. It is time right now to advocate for what you want with our new legislature. So, hey, Hannah, welcome to, how are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
How did you end up becoming the advocacy queen of the St. Louis Arc? Tell us a little bit about your journey to advocacy.
Sure. I think it's been years of building up to this point, but I was working in the field for quite some time and was very interested in ways that I could make more changes and advocate for the things I was seeing that I thought were important in the field of disability services. And so I actually did a practicum internship with the St. Louis Arc when I was studying to get my MSW, my master's in social work. And through that, I was able to attend some advocacy events and meet some participants and families. Um, and I so enjoyed that. And actually went on after that to get a second practicum internship with the House of Representatives in Jefferson City. And then I came back to the ARC after that, and now I'm on the family supports team. So I was able to take that knowledge that I learned from being in that environment in the House of Representatives, and also working in support services and put them together. So
So
since I've been at
important.
the ARC, yeah, we've been really combining those two and making sure the ARC folks have a voice in Jefferson City and on the federal level as well.
All right. Well, we have a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to primarily turn things over to you. But before I do, let's just kind of start off with that question about what happens when a new session of the legislature starts. There's a bunch of new
Mhm.
people, lots of new things happening. Can you give us a little summary?
Yeah, so last year we actually had an election year for state level elected officials in Missouri. So a lot of you may have brand new legislators this year, and so you may have known your state legislators, your senator or your representative in the past. And you may be thinking, oh yeah, I know them. I've met them. They know about my needs or my family's needs. But as of this year, you may actually have a brand new person. So I highly recommend checking who your legislator is, making sure you still know who they are. And if that's changed, reaching out and getting to know them. We also have a brand new governor, so everything's very new and moving very quickly, and it's a great time to really feel like you know who's there representing you. So they just started a new session in early January, so it's very fresh. And in the case of the freshman legislators, that's what they call the new legislators. A lot of them are still learning who's out there, who are they representing, what services are available. Many of them might not know. So it's up to some of us to educate them on what we need and the communities that we're a part of.
Thank you. I know you've got some slides to show us. Before you do that,
Mhm.
though, you've already been down to Jefferson City to do some
Mhm.
handshaking and to let people know about the St. Louis Arc and the needs of
Mhm.
people with disabilities. Can you talk about that for just a minute and then go ahead and go right into your presentation?
Yeah, yeah. So the St. Louis Arc, alongside several other organizations in the field, typically we like to build relationships with our legislators over time. We like to get to know them and invite them to our programs to see the types of things that we're doing. And then mostly when we do visit them and we do have an ask, typically that is related to funding our services, making sure that our services can continue. So a lot of orgs are headed to Jeff City to make sure they have representation there and that their representatives are on the same page as far as what our community of folks with IDD in the Missouri and in the St. Louis area need. So they need access to services. We've talked quite a lot about eliminating wait lists and making sure that people can get to their services as quickly as possible. So a lot of it is funding related. And so we typically watch House Bill 10, which is the mental health budget bill. That's a big one for us.
And that's why it's so important to do stuff right now, because
Mhm.
the budget is about to be, revisited and come up with a new budget for the year that has to be signed and ready by July 1st. So really
Mhm.
key time in the state.
All right, so this is a very brief PowerPoint I have for you here. Just wanted to kind of list out some information so you could see it in front of you. If you are wondering how to find out who your legislator is, this first link here is a great website. You can also type into Google. Typically, I type legislator lookup senate.mo.gov, and it will bring you to this link, or you can use this link directly. If we have some time at the end, I can show you what it looks like, but this is just a web page that brings you to the Senate website. It asks you to put in your street address and your city name, and that's it. Then when you click enter, it will show you a list of all of your representatives, locally, statewide, all the way through the federal side. So you can really see every single person that represents you in your district. Your legislators all have a website. So senate.mo.gov and house.mo.gov are great for that info. But if you are confused about what their email address might be, it's typically their first name dot last name at senate.mo.gov or house.mo.gov. So usually you will be able to kind of discern what their email address is based on that formula. And they also have legislative assistants that are listed on these websites. So sometimes you can include the legislative assistant in an email. They will also have their phone number and their capital address listed on the website when you look them up. But if you do the first link and you go to legislator lookup, it should have hyperlinked each person so that you can just click their name and go directly to their page with all of their info. And now is just a great time to reach out to them and let them know who you are and what's important to you. If you do find out about a specific bill that is important to you, whether you support it or don't support it, or you think something should become a bill, you can contact them about your thoughts, and you can also ask them to set a meeting. You can do a virtual meeting with them. You can call their office and speak to a legislative aide or ask for a call back from them. You can visit them in their offices in Jefferson City. And typically on Fridays, they're back home in their home district. So sometimes they are around in your neighborhood as well. So you can ask them to visit with you in person if they have the time back home. And at the ARC, we also like to invite them to our programs from time to time as well, so they know who we are and what we're doing. So the next slide is an upcoming event that we have going on in the state of Missouri. This is Disability Rights Legislative Day, and the date for the next one is February 26th, 2025, and that's a Wednesday. This photo here on the side shows hundreds of people gathered in the Capitol Rotunda for Disability Rights Legislative Day. It's a huge event celebrating disability in all types in the state of Missouri. So it's not just intellectual and developmental disabilities. We really celebrate any and all disability, neurodivergence, and allies, family members, etc. So it's a great event. You can attend in person or you can attend virtually by live streaming the rally. DRLD.org is the website for more information. And there's also a Facebook page if you're on Facebook and you just type in Disability Rights Legislative Day. The event opens as early as 8 a.m., but you come, as soon as you can get there. The rally starts at 11:15, and there will be resource tables available with statewide resources, self-advocacy resources, and ways to get involved. There will be team members, access team members to help you navigate the day and find out who your legislator is if you don't know. And I highly recommend scheduling meetings with your legislator for that afternoon. And typically when you do meet with them, it's about 10 minutes, usually no longer than 15 minutes for those meetings. They're pretty quick. So you want to come with a few details about yourself, your story, some things you want them to know, and be prepared to share that pretty quickly. And then get to know them. Maybe ask a few questions of them as well.
And I think if you are concerned or anxious about that time frame, we have several advocacy videos available in our YouTube library that really will walk through with you how to craft your story and how to prepare yourself for a conversation with the legislator.
Absolutely. Definitely utilize those resources. And feel free to practice with a friend or a family member, or reach out to us if you have questions about how to prepare your story and prepare your talking points. So here are just a few tips for the day. You can register ahead of time at drld.org. But if you plan to attend with the ARC, reach out to advocacy@slark.org, and we'll ask you a few questions about your support needs for the day. And we'll set up a plan so that you know where to meet us and how to get there. We'll be providing rides. And if you do come with us in the large group that we bring, then you don't need to register on your own. I can register the group together. But if you do want to watch virtually, registering ahead of time at drld.org is a great way to get emails about the virtual link. If you are going in person, just make sure you know who you're riding with, have an idea of where you might park. There are some maps available online. You may want to have a driver drop you off at the front Circle Drive and then come meet you. But just think about parking and what that might look like. Make a plan for lunch. Typically, I suggest that people bring a sack lunch because it's easier. It comes with you where you go. But there is a cafeteria in the basement level of the Capitol. And you can also leave for lunch and come back. But I will say, going to the next line, you do have to go through security every time you come in and out. So just be aware that all of this takes time. You may stand in a line when you first arrive, but security is typically like less than what you would see at an airport. So it typically moves along pretty well. And just another tip, that the Capitol tends to be crowded and noisy on these big rally days. So if you know you might need a break or a sensory item that will help you get through the day, then just go ahead and pack that, such as, a noise canceling headphone. If you feel that you need to wear a mask due to, caution, immunocompromised, or just if you want to be extra cautious, you can plan ahead to do that because there will be quite a few people in the room. But anything else you think you may need in a crowded space, and don't feel that you need to go through the whole day without taking breaks. You can definitely step outside or have someone go with you to take a break too.
Hannah, we've got a couple quick questions about
Great.
DRLD, so I want to answer
Wonderful.
those. One of
Yeah.
them I know is a challenge. What is accessible parking like at the Capitol?
Yeah, so it is a challenge. Last year, the Capitol allowed folks to park and go into a side door that is not usually open to the public. So I don't know if that will happen again this year. Um, I would keep an eye out on drld.org as well as the Facebook page for any updates. And if you register ahead of time on this website, drld.org, you will get any updates that come in about accessibility. There also are some accessible parking spaces in the Circle Drive, but those fill up very quickly. So if you do need an accessible spot, I would do your best to arrive early. Have someone drop you off. It's totally appropriate to have the vehicle pull up and unload people and then later go park elsewhere if need be. But I would just think about that ahead of time. If you need any support in getting in and out of your vehicle, making sure that you have thought about that ahead of time would be ideal. The parking is one of the biggest challenges of this day. So we do try and make it as accessible as possible, but it can be a challenge.
The other question really isn't about DRLD, but we'll ask it now anyway.
Okay.
For somebody that's not going to get down there and have an appointment with their legislator on that day, if they schedule something at home, whether it's virtually or face to face, are there the same time constraints? Do they only
Uh,
get 10 minutes?
so you can ask, you feel free to ask the office. Typically when we book an in-person meeting, it is usually that short because legislators have potentially several appointments throughout the day, and they could, at a moment's notice, be pulled into a caucus meeting, a committee hearing, or they could be on the floor. So that is another thing that I like to just let people know is that sometimes you arrive to the office and your legislator is not there. In the event that that happens, typically you can speak with their legislative aide. There's usually someone sitting in the office that can speak with you. Or if you have a flexible day, you could wait or come back later. They will do their best to accommodate you, but it is very common that these meetings might change slightly or something may happen to cut them short. So I would say if you do have a need to meet with them longer, like if you're inviting them to a program, to an event, to a Zoom meeting that is longer, I would just give them a heads up. And sometimes they can make it work. It's not that they can't meet longer than that time. It's just that it gets tricky and sometimes they do have to cut it short.
I do feel like when they're not in Jefferson City, the odds of you being able to get 20 or 30 minutes is much easier. I know quite a few families who've gotten to have coffee at a coffee shop for 30 minutes or, that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think ask for what you think you need, but at the same time, it's always good to be concise and really think in advance about what your main points are.
But I will say if you have questions that are not answered today in this setting, or, um, if you don't get your question answered by the DRLD website, you can feel free to contact advocacy@slark.org, which will go to me. If you want to attend the Disability Rights Legislative Day in person with the ARC, please contact that email address unless you already have spoken with me, because some of you have already. I do have a little list going already. But if you're not sure about something, just reach out to that email address and we'll get back with you with more details. One of our self-advocates applied to be a rally speaker last year, which I actually will talk a little bit about too next. She applied to be a rally speaker at Disability Rights Legislative Day, and she expressed some concerns that because she used a Hoyer lift to use the restroom at home and at any programs she attends, she was concerned that she wouldn't have an accessible restroom to use while at the Capitol. And that does impact her travel plans because she was going to be gone the entire day. So she brought this up to her legislator, and she also spoke with several other orgs like the Developmental Disabilities Council. She spoke with several folks about this concern, and they were able to work with the Capitol, and the Capitol actually purchased a Hoyer lift for the basement accessible restroom, and it's there. So there is a lift in the family restroom on the lower level of the Capitol because of self-advocacy efforts, and that all happened
Yay.
within the span of several months between last session and this session. So advocacy does pay off, everyone. I'll go ahead and share the DRLD webpage really quick with you. This is what the front page looks like. The date is Wednesday, February 26th. We got a registration button you can click on. Here's a photo, another photo of the event. And this is a schedule of events. You can arrive anytime between 8 and 11. I would recommend getting there as early as you can, but we do know that people coming from St. Louis or other parts of the state do have quite a long drive. So do what works for you, but the earlier, the easier it will be to get in. Resource tables, legislators, etc. The rally is going to be in the rotunda at 11:15, and then you have free time in the afternoon to either schedule your own meetings, look at those resource tables again, meet other self-advocates and other orgs from across the state, etc. So that is the rough schedule of the day.
So I want to talk to you about some of our additional advocacy efforts. And one of them is action alerts, because we know that we have this amazing pool of people who get services and families and friends who can reach out when there's a need. Can you talk about what an advocacy alert is and how people can get on our list to get those?
Mm-hmm. So St. Louis ARC has several email lists, and I would say if you do not get the action alerts and you would like to, feel free to email advocacy@slark.org and we can get you put on that list. We do have action alerts that come out periodically when there's something happening on the federal or state level that involves folks with disabilities and the people that St. Louis ARC serves. So those come out and just give a brief overview of what the issue is, how we would like you to take action. And of course, it's your choice whether or not to take action. It's completely up to you. But typically, they will include some sort of link that will make it easier for you to contact your legislator quickly. So that may look like, if you click a button and put in your name and address, it can look up your legislators for you and send an automated email.
What I like about it too is that the language is all there. They're
Yes.
telling you this is the bill that you want to respond to. Here's a pre-written letter. All you have to do is look up your legislators. If you want to add to it, if you have a personal connection to that issue, you can add your own personal comments. But I find it daunting sometimes to write those letters. And I did an action alert today, and I think it took me less than 2 minutes.
Yeah. And sometimes if you don't know what to add of your own, you can just say, my name is so and so. I'm the parent of an adult with a disability, or I am a person with a disability that lives in this area. You can just add a sentence about who you are if you want to, or if it's too intimidating, sending it just as is perfectly fine as well. And Sharon, I did want to really quick share what it looks like when they use the legislator lookup tool.
You bet.
I put in the Warson office address, that's a St. Louis ARC main office. But when you type in your street address and your city, you get this lovely list of all of your legislators. So we've got state, senator, House of Representatives, U.S. House, statewide elected officials. This is the new governor, U.S. senators. So this is all the way, this is federal level, this is state level. And if you click these hyperlinks, it goes directly to their page, which, if I click one, it'll give the address, the room number, the phone number, and a link to email them, as well as their legislative staff. So sometimes if you call, you might talk to a legislative staff, and then you'll know what their name is and who they are. And it gives a brief bio about who they are as well. So you can usually use these websites to look up more about your legislator, bills they've filed, past legislation, etc. And there's a lot of information available on those websites. So I just highly recommend checking that out so that you know ahead of time who your legislator is and a few things about them, and then you'll know how to connect with them about who you are.